Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on another edition of the Primetime News on Equinoxe Television. We are live from Cameroon's economic capital city, Douala. Equinoxe Central News Desk. In our top story, the legal mind of the Anglophone detainee who died in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, tells us the conditions and the challenges he went through even before giving up the goods. He shall be speaking in this edition of the news. And that's not all. They are planning legal actions after the death of Thomas Tangim, alias Patom, and we shall be taking you to Limbe in the Fako of the southwest region of Cameroon, where unknown individuals have set ablaze road construction machines belonging to the Limbe city. Those are the top stories. Before dying, Thomas Tangim, a detainee of the armed conflicts in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, went through torture at the detention center in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, that is at the Kundigi Maximum Security Prison. Those are the revelations made by Barrister Mungwa, who is one of the legal minds in Cameroon defending those arrested within the context of the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Listen to Barrister Mungwa in a telephone chat with Innocent.
Tangim Thomas was arrested on the 3rd of July 2017. I should insist that he was adopted from his home. So he was brought over to Yaoundé and he joined the Kundigi Central Prison on the 12th of December 2017 after spending several months of torture in one of the most dreaded cells of the Secretary of State for Defense, that is ASED. Ngayo, after he joined the other Southern Cameroon Amazonian at the central prison, his case has been coming up, but he has never been tried. So Ngayo dies exactly 3 years after awaiting trial, and this is gross injustice and gross violation of the criminal procedure code and even international instruments that Cameroon has ratified as member. So, in fact, Ngayo has been sick for about 5 months, and the prison and justice administration did not take adequate care of him. They equally blocked access for the family to take him to well-equipped specialized medical center in order to get treatment. And in fact, by the time they removed him from prison, Ngayo was already in comatose. He died before they moved him in prison, before they rushed him to the central hospital in Yaoundé, where he finally came off the ghost on the 5th of August. Why they ferried him or evacuated him to the central hospital, he underwent a series of clinical exams. Amongst them was an exam on meningitis, which they did repeatedly, and finally the diagnosis had him. There is a scientific name to that illness, but which I cannot really pronounce. And while in the hospital, the guy was placed under one of the most disappointed and most uncivilized state in chains, and to the view of the international community, to the view of everybody, to the view of the family that mourned him alive.
Barrister Mungwa speaking to our reporter Innocent on the telephone chat from Yaoundé, Cameroon, and he went further to say that though family members have been refused or were refused the possibility of taking their Ngayo Tangim Thomas to the hospital and he died, the family is not going to let it go. The family, working in collaboration with the lawyers defending him, are taking another step, legal step, with regards to his demise. Take a listen to the barrister once again in the following extract.
As far as legal actions are concerned, we had dedicated an action which we could not move ahead with it because his health situation was preoccupying and was decaying as the days were passing. And we had to pay attention to him and to see that we could help him out of the situation. But unfortunately, we could not. But This does not stop us. We are working on that. That complaint is in abeyance, and we know that we are in a state of law. I keep on saying this because I believe that the rule of law has to prevail in our country. We know that the superintendent of the Central Prison, Kolengi, who actually did not hesitate to release the personal belongings of Nganyu Tangen Thomas yesterday, that is the first of his kind. He's a guy, he's a gentleman, or a man that is imbued. And each time lawyers come there to access their lawyers, whether to access their care, he tells them off, and he tells them that they should refer to hierarchy, meaning the Minister of Justice and the Minister delegate in charge of penitentiary administration. When we were at the military tribunal, we went to the military tribunal quite late at about 11 o'clock. We met our clients from Kolengi. Before they left Kolengi, there was a stand-up, and the superintendent of prison, Mr. Amadou Moody, called them to order, and he started pleading and saying that what happened to Nganyu, he was not aware of it. He has never been aware of it. That it is another administrator of the prison that is blocking them, and that from now hence anybody that is sick should come to him. But we are waiving that. We're waiving that with our palm, because we will not. We want to think that the criminal procedure code of this country and other international instruments, being even the Mandela rules and the United Nations organization on the rights of health and all of that, they do regulate what should happen to detainees or prisoners. Nganyu was still awaiting trial and benefiting from presumption of innocence. Who told these people that it could not be acquitted? In fact, the situation is so bad, incredibly bad in a way that we cannot bear it. But like the defense team, we are working and we are concerting and we are cogitating. We are predicting on measures that we have to take. And when these measures will be ripened, we're going to bring them to the press. You can always trust us.
And 11 bandits have been presented to the public in Marwa, chief town of the Far North region of Cameroon. The bandits, according to security sources, were specialized in motor cycle theft in that part of the Far North region, and even moving as far down as the Adama region of the Grand North of Cameroon. Smart Dikangebe tells us more in the following report.
Insecurity in Marwa is gaining grounds as days go by. At the Central Police Station, a group of alleged bandits were presented to the public. They have been causing havoc to the population of Marwa and are specialized in the stealing of commercial motorcycles. This gang is specialized in the stealing of motorcycles and breaking into private homes. The last stole from a certain Ramat Abdul at the Worudule quarter. The reseller is on the run. The inhabitants of Marwa say the least noise at odd hours wake them up. We are lost in the whole situation. Every day, thieves break into our homes. More to that, there are some who come with guns. They attack at any given time. We have lost sleep because the least noise, we are on the alert. The rise of insecurity in the town of Marwa has also been linked to the lack of jobs for youths who are willing to work. We face difficulties of unemployment. Many youths are involved in the informal sector with projects but no financial support. Maybe that is the reason for them engaging in the act of stealing. The alleged bandits use knives and machetes to harass their victims. After their presentation, they were taken to court for justice to take its course.
The advanced state of dilapidation of schools infrastructures in the Nkam division of the Littoral region of Cameroon is posing a problem to local administrators as they prepare for school resumption. I'm talking about the 2020-2021 academic year. Those problems were presented recently through a workshop, or rather a back-to-school campaign that was launched with inhabitants and parents of the Nkam division of the Littoral region of Cameroon. Immaculate Fogwe tells us more in the following report.
The state of some classrooms, which is expected to host pupils for the 2020-2021 academic year in the Nkam division, West region of Cameroon. Some of the buildings are without roofs, the ceilings in bad condition, the walls cracked, with some classrooms invaded by grass, making it a suitable hideout for snakes and other dangerous reptiles. When it rains, the classrooms are usually flooded.
Time we wind move this roof, I be there for classroom.
I was in class with primary 6 pupils when a strong wind blew off our roof. I had to calm down the pupils because they were scared. Luckily enough, no one was hurt. Parents had to rush to the school premises in order to confirm that their children are safe.
So as the rain just comes, so move.
Depuis le 21 mars.
Students cannot study in such a classroom. Just 2 classrooms are still in good shape, but we have 480 pupils. How are they going to study?
Et aujourd'hui, nous n'avons plus que 2 salles de classe.
Apart from this, some hospitals in the Nkam division are not well equipped. Deplorable roads and the abandonment of construction projects due to insufficient funds. During a divisional meeting, an evaluation of public investment projects in the Nkam division were made in order to seek possible solutions to the aforementioned challenges. Nanvu Fujo Natalie, divisional delegate at the Ministry of Economic Planning and Regional Development, says a lot of work has to be done.
Un grand frein dans ce taux d'exécution que vous avez constaté.
We are not satisfied with the work done. We are still at 6.2% of execution work in the division. It is true that we have started executing projects for 2020, but we plan improving the work done. The limited means we have can justify the delay. We are calling on the government to react to our plights.
On sait dans quelles conditions caser 5200 élèves d'ici le mois d'octobre. Tous les murs sont au sol, toute la charpente au sol.
In order to ensure effective school resumption for pupils of these schools in the Nkam division, the government has to react promptly.
With a disturbing school infrastructure in the Nkam division, rather in the Nkam division of the West region of Cameroon, and not in the Nkam of the Littoral region, even as Cameroonians prepare to go back to school for the 2020-2021 academic year. And in the southwest region of Cameroon, a conflict-hit region, the governor Bernard Okalia Bilai has given the one of the government, that is the GC examination, a pass mark. Derek Jato took part in the tour of the governor Bernard Okalia Bilai in some centers within Boya and the rest of the southwest region. His report. We're rather talking about GCE in Boya in the southwest region of Cameroon, where Governor Bernard Okalia Bilai said it was a success, giving it a pass mark. It was after he assessed the written part, or the one of the written part of the GCE examination. Derek Jato tells us more from Boya. And of course, we shall be coming back to that report just before we end this edition of the news. Now we take the written part of the examination in the Littoral region of Cameroon. As you say, students writing this year's session of the General Certificate of Education examination, that's the GCE, have started the written phase hitch-free in Kumba in the Meme division of the southwest region of Cameroon. The senior divisional officer for the Meme Division, Tundon Chamberlain, on an evaluation visit to some schools within Kumba, said he was happy with the conduct of candidates and also with the turnout so far within security threatened Kumba of the southwest region of Cameroon. And some of the written centers or the centers where the GC examination is taking place in Kumba includes Government Bilingual High School Station Kumba, at the Cameroon College of Art and Sciences Cast Kumba, and the Government Technical High School Kumba. And of course, at these centers, students answered present, and the examination went on heat-free, according to administrative sources in Kumba. And now we stay in the southwest region of Cameroon to talk about food security. The government of Cameroon, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the Ministry of Animal Husbandry, and has so far improved the working conditions of farmers in the southwest region of Cameroon, giving them financial aid to sustain them. According to the government of Cameroon, through the two ministries concerned, this project is aimed at averting a possible food crisis in Cameroon, even after the coronavirus pandemic, a health crisis. More with Derry Jato in Boya.
Apart from losing loved ones, homes and their farms that were all destroyed, the war in their region also succeeded in taking away the unity they shared as common initiative groups.
From we were displaced. Some of us went to Melong, some of us to Kongsamba, some Douala,
Tombe. First of all, our farmers, most of them ran away during the crisis.
I'm from Kumba, Fiambu precisely. I want to tell you that with the crisis, they have been too hard, very hard on us.
And today, the high prices on food crops in market is announcing that famine is already here.
We were unable to even work. Now that we are suffering from hunger.
The price of plantain, for example, has doubled, it's even threatening to triple. That's a proof that production has greatly received a great hit.
ASEFA, a government program aimed at improving the productivity and incomes of agro-pastoral family farms, which had also paused its operations in the southwest region because of the war, has relaunched its activities. Something needs to be done now, before it is too late. And today, 30 producers organizations of Meme, Fako and Coupe Maningoba divisions are being handed checks amounting to 143,413,512 francs CFA. Buba Momini, ASEFA National Coordinator, called on these farmers to make sure that their intended project is that which is realized.
They are the backbone of this country. You know, if we need peace, we need good farmers who can work, who can produce so that we can feed the nation. And we know that this region is very important, concerning agricultural production in this country.
To the beneficiaries, the backup they have been waiting for has finally arrived, and they have only one option, and that is to deliver.
I think most of them will bounce back.
We have been railing just say 50, 100, 200, but now we will go up to about 500, 1,000, and that would really help the group.
At first, we were pounding cassava in the mortar, pounding cassava, then grinding gari in a grater. Then now, if we have the machine, we'll be able to improve our productivity.
This ceremony was presided at by the Southwest Regional Delegate of Agriculture and Rural Development, accompanied by his counterpart of Livestock, Fisheries and Animal Husbandry.
Just as indicated in the report, the project is being coordinated by the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in partnership with the Ministry of Livestock, Fishery and Animal Husbandry. And in the same light, over 26 farmers from the Mungu and Nkam division of the Littoral region of Cameroon have also benefited from the government's program for the consolidation sustainability of agro-pastoral counseling, that is the PCP ASEFA, and their checks to the tune of over 144 million francs CFA were handed over at Douala during a ceremony chaired by the National Coordinator, Dr. Buba Mumini. Coming within the COVID-19 context, farmers were charged to uphold and increase productivity in order to avoid a food crisis after the current health crisis in Cameroon. And of course, at the end of the event, we hooked up with Fomondam Jonas, a farmer from the Mungu division of the littoral region of Cameroon.
My name is Fomondam Teba Jonas. I know that as from now, our pottery is going to change. We'll build it, we'll modify it, and then all our layers, at least we'll add the amount so that we'll produce more eggs, and even send them out of our division. Sometimes we used to bring some here in Douala. It was somehow difficult, but since you know what to do and you have those that can advise you, so we do it successfully through the advice of others. With the difficulty we faced was just that our chickens did not come in time. At times when they are sick, we cannot run very fast to bring medicines because of the coronavirus.
And we also hooked up with the littoral regional delegates of agriculture and rural development, Mr. Kunde Jean-Claude, who said the initiative was strategic and timely. And of course, we shall not be having that extract in this edition of the news, ladies and gentlemen. We're sorry, but just as indicated at the start of the news, some 3 road construction machines have been set ablaze by some unknown individuals in Limbe in the southwest region of Cameroon. The machines were parked at the technical site, and of course they belong to the Limbe City Council. According to information from Limbe, they were burned at about midnight breaking this day. And of course, the senior divisional officer for the Fako division and forces of law and order went to the site earlier today to assess the situation. It is said to that it remains unknown who are those responsible for the acts, but inhabitants of Limbe suspect that they might just be disgruntled individuals after their structures were destroyed recently. Makeshift structures were destroyed recently by the Limbe city. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for the first part. Up next is Talking Point. Thanks for joining us on Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we are receiving a Pan-Africanist political analyst, Adrien Atem Ibako. Thanks for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I thank our viewers for this hour on watching Equinoxe. I hope that our opinions can be able to share light and be able to give the Cameroonians a way forward to this crisis moment that we all find ourselves in. Thank you again.
Yeah, this is the first time we're having you on Talking Points on Equinoxe.
Yeah.
We'll be starting with the first major issue affecting Cameroon. Currently, Cameroon is now, the world is faced with the health crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, but Cameroon, above the health crisis, is still facing the challenges of the armed conflict, call it the Anglophone crisis in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. You, as a Pan-Africanist, as a political analyst, what are the impacts or the effects of the current deadlock we're witnessing? I call it a deadlock because there were announced talks between the government of Cameroon and separatists, but a few days after, nothing has been said about it, but people have continued to suffer, and killings are still ongoing in the 2 Anglophone regions.
Well, what I can say in this period Cameroon has found himself into, I think that it's a historic moment for the Cameroonians to understand that the way forward is not going to bring any solution. We have to be able to retrace back our roots and be able to look at the structures that can the structures and the policies that we can put in place that can favor the citizens of this country. Yes, if you look at the situation happening in the northwest and in the southwest, that has been ever since late 2016. This crisis, in my point of view as a political analyst, it will still have about about 10 more years to go.
10 years to go.
10 more years to go. And like
we're going to be witnessing this killing.
Yes,
this suffering.
Yes, it is going to be like this because the government and have not been able to address the core of the problem. So which is no, the core of the problem. I simply the way I, as a Pan-Africanist, the way I look at it is that these are strategies that have been built before the independence in the 1960 and 61 so-called was instituted. So what I would advise the government of this country, if they want to build this country in the spirit of the favor and the spirit of their nation, and such a one that can favor the citizens and can build up this country for the Cameroonians and not for the interests of foreigners or those foreign Western nations that implement certain policies that we are joined with that destabilizes our system. So I am suggesting that the core of the problem is reviewing the 1960 constitution or the 1960 policies and the 1961 policies in order for Cameroon to take the right direction. Because the question is, where are we going to? This is about the 4th year of this crisis and it's still pending. So any other strategies which they are using, like I said before, those who may say that it is decentralization that is going to bring out the solution, they have a point, but in my perspective as a Pan-Africanist, it will not solve a problem. Equally as those who say it is federation or those who say it is regional or whatever. I will say that the only thing that can bring change to Cameroon is that Cameroonians must set aside their differences and understand that Cameroon is their motherland, and they are not living in a foreign land where they have come to exploit it and one day they pack their bags and leave. It will take the Cameroonians themselves to understand that they must manage their own crisis, they must be responsible in solving their own problems, and they must see the need to come together and build a country for themselves that will fit their system. Why do I talk about the 1960 policies? Because the democracy which we are using in Cameroon, or the government that was instituted way back in the days of Ayijo, did not derive from the spirit of the Cameroonians themselves. That is why that system, I still say that, does not work in the favor of the citizens of this country. Therefore means that it is a time where these policies has to be changed, and these policies or whatever engagements and treaties that we have engaged ourselves with the Western nations, we have to review all these things, because I have always said that as Cameroonians or as Africans, we must learn to live together by living apart. Let the Western nations manage their own affairs, and we have the AU Union, which was formed in the 1963 or 1965 to manage the affairs of Africa. So I am simply saying here that the conflict in those two regions, Northwest and Southwest, there are two bodies that will suffer. One is the government, and number two is a common man, because the government is going into all strength to bring stability, but it's not taking the right approach, because reviewing the 1960 policy will simply means that you want to go against your colonial masters. But what am I simply trying to say here is that
the treaties, apparently, from all indication, you are holding the West responsible.
They are partly responsible for what is happening here.
The treaties, the treaties you're talking about, the treaties, are they the ones signed with foreign governments, with the international community? Are you talking about constitutional changes? Because you made mention of the former president Amadou Ayijo and some decisions that were taken. You also talked about things that were taken, resolutions that were taken in the 1960s and the 1961. When we talk about 1961, we'll remember the independence of the former French Cameroon, that is the West Cameroon. Of course, in the 61, we're talking about the independence of former British Southern Cameroon. Are those the things you're referring to?
Yes. Let me break it down a little bit for Cameroonians to understand. In order for us to have an effective government in this country, the citizens themselves must be well educated to understand the history of this country and the history of these African nations, or the continent of Africa. You see, it is impossible for you to expect a poor man or an uneducated man to have a willpower or to have a decision. It's not possible. So the need to educate and to sensitize the citizens of this country on a way forward to what will bring a lasting peace and development, the kind of development that fits the context of this country. We have to look at those treaties or whatever. I'll give you a very good example here. Now, not that we are told, but these are statistics. For example, in Cameroon, we cannot claim to own our own currency. That simply means that we don't have control over our own economy. Also, it's a typology for you to understand that our government will always be ineffective to carry out the duties that will favor its own citizens. And that is a strategy I call the 15% against the 85%. Now, if you, as like you say, am I blaming the Western nation? No, I would say that the Western nations taught the African governments or the hand group of indigenous powers which they instituted as governments, they taught them how the foreign bodies colonized them, and now taught them how to apply what we call neo-colonialism, which destabilizes the 85%. I'm simply saying here that if you have 85% of a country's natural resources reserves, what does that mean? That simply means that in principle, it simply means that you have separated 85 from 15%, and 15% you have endorsed with power to exploit the 85%. So 85% of Cameroonians today are living in abject poverty, where the largest industry in Cameroon today is the government. That's why everybody is running to the government. That's why everything is centered to the government. And these are the systems which were placed in the beginning. And that is why we are saying that when the League of Nations was asking the colonial imperialists to map out and strategize all their colonies, they knew that the African member states represent in the United Nations as a 15%, which is the identity of a slave. All the other Western members in the United Nations come in with their autonomy, except the African member states. So how do you put us in a union called the United Nations when you know and you have already classified us as inferior people? So it's not a fair game. So that is why I am saying that the Cameroonians must understand that it is a time where they don't need to depend on the United Nations or the program for development or whatever. They must understand, like I still said, that the problem down there is not reconstruction. The problem down there is not a financial problem. The problem in Cameroon is not about good roads. The problem in Cameroon is that the Cameroonians themselves, everybody has a chain of responsibility. The government has a responsibility. The citizens of this country have a responsibility. But what am I simply trying to say here is that our governments have been taught on how to colonize or to exploit the 85% of its population, and that is why you realize that the government is the strongest body in the country and has sole autonomy over everything. That is why I am simply saying here that I'm not against the government. I'm saying that it must be a joint effort for all Cameroonians to come together and see the need to build their country.
That's why you're talking to those who are in Cameroon, but in the northwest and southwest region, there is a group of people who believe that these two regions should go their way and form a state so they can be happy. They call them separatists, others call them secessionists. They are a group of people. Some might be in Cameroon and some are out of the country, but they have a voice that matters in this issue. There are some you've already mentioned who are standing for confederation. There are some who are standing for federalism. A government is talking about a unitary and decentralized state. Cameroon, a united and decentralized Cameroon. Those are the points raised. Now, when you talk about Cameroonians to come together and see into things that we are signed with the government, who are the category of people you are referring to? You mean all these people all these people with these ideologies should come together and look at it from that angle?
The resistance in the northwest and in the southwest derives from the concept of a system which denies its people. That simply means that they have come to realize that it is not in the favor of the Cameroonian spirit, and that is why they speak of breaking away. Because you cannot live in a country where you don't have right to self-determination. That is the point, and I still say that.
Yes, because at the end, yes. I say so because if the problems are actually treaties we signed, our president signed, we will be having the same problem with some other regions of Cameroon or French-speaking regions wanting to go their way. But that is not the case.
Like I told you, in my understanding and the way I have analyzed it, You see, poverty is one of the worst crimes ever in the human race, because poor people don't make decisions. Like, a lot of interest is involved here. It is not because it's only the Northwest and the Southwest that are claiming to want to separate that have a problem. The country in general is in crisis. We have to take note about this. And the project for reconstruction did not derive from the government of Cameroon itself.
Okay, the
campaign for reconstruction of the Northwest and the Southwest did not derive from the government of Cameroon. Cameroonians should understand this. It is because the IMF or the international community have realized that the resistance in those two regions is destabilizing the economy or the GDP of Cameroon in terms of the world market. So interest is at stake here, and that is why the Cameroonian government has been put under pressure by the IMF and by France, which gave about 40 billion for the reconstruction of the Northwest and Southwest. And the IMF also in 2017, when this crisis began, gave a quota of Cameroon of $666.6 million, which is 400 billion CFA. So what am I simply trying to say here is that the resistance down there is jeopardizing the economy and the interest of those that the country has been benefiting. And that is why there's a resistance between that population. You see, as it is progressing, like we had
the government will suffer and the population
and the common man will suffer.
Will continue to suffer.
And the common man will suffer.
That is the PPRD, according to you. It is not a government of Cameroon initiative. It's coming from somewhere. But that's not the only solution so far given by the government to this crisis or attempted solution. There is also the special status to the Northwest and Southwest region of Cameroon. The government also talks about the recruitment of some teachers, the putting in place of the common law bench at the Supreme Court, and so other things. Are these not Cameroon government's initiative? Are these also coming from out of Cameroon?
Those are initiatives. You realize that at a certain period in time, people become fed up just hearing you talking. You understand what I'm trying to say?
All right.
Yes. So we believe more in pragmatism. I'm not saying that those things are not good, but I'm saying here that there's a pending core problem.
Yes, which according to you, if the government, for example, wasn't listening to these foreign organizations and governments, if they actually took time to listen to its people, provide its own solutions, the problem would have been solved.
Well, I would want you to look at it this way. We have to be honest. Let us not only focus on the Northwest and the Southwest. True, that is where the problem began. But I'll give you examples so we understand what is happening behind the scenes that Cameroonians don't see. As the years are progressing, you come to understand that it is not a problem of the Northwest and the Southwest. It is going to spread through the entire country because it is already killing the economy. So Cameroonians are already feeling the effect of this crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest, though they are not living there. So we have to be very clear on that. Take, for example, in Cameroon, the government of Cameroon has 28 state-owned companies. 18 is already crumbling. 4 is barely surviving. It's only 4 about so. That is almost trying to do some good. Why France alone has 360 companies.
State-owned.
State in Cameroon.
Oh, existing.
What am I simply trying to say? I'm saying that the strategy of the 15% against the 85% gives room for the foreign organization to come in here and exploit the country and allow their population to go poor. And every day poverty rate only increase, except that you only join the government. They understand the strategy, and that is why I am saying that we have to understand that the area of either separating or the area of decentralizing, we are tired of separation. It is for a time where a clear example will be like Rwanda. The president says openly that the Rwanda is not good today is because it has a good leadership or it has a good president. Because the Rwandese themselves have seen the need to come together and build their nation. So there's a responsibility here in our generation today, in the youths, in the citizens of this country, equally as the government. So for you, in order for us to get a good government, a government that fits the context of the spirit of this nation, we take the quality of the citizens themselves to understand that it is for time for us to choose the government that we want us to lead. And that is why, in my terms as a Pan-Africanist, I don't believe in opposition parties. As long as it is in the context of democracy, which is a system instituted by the Western nation and will never favor any African, it will never favor any African state. So all of these things has to be redefined at a period in time where we are seeing that this is not working anymore. Right. Whatever was given to Cameroon in the 60s is a time where we are realizing that it's not working anymore. So we have to review it. That's what I'm trying to say. Andrine Atem Ibako Bisong, and Pan-Africanist, a political analyst, thanks very much for your intervention. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much for your kind attention. Still with Equinoxe Television. Interesting programs continue.